this video, we'll be asking, are there lines that shouldn't be crossed in your written communication? In all your written communication, try to balance your need to be informative, persuasive, or entertaining with your audience's need for you to be responsible and ethical. No doubt you will all be highly responsible and ethical writers, but what happens when a writer tips the balance the wrong way? What steps can be taken to deal with writing and media text in general that are irresponsible and unethical? There are advisory or regulatory bodies to oversee standards in press and advertising. These are different in different countries. In the UK, they are the Independent Press Standards Organisation, or IPSO, which replaced the Press Complaints Commission in 2014, and the Advertising Standards Authority, or ASA. Hopefully you checked out the short YouTube videos about IPSO and the ASA before watching this video as advised, so you'll have some knowledge about them already. Let's develop that knowledge by looking in a little more detail with some concrete examples of complaints and outcomes from each of them. Here is IPSO's description of what they do on the Who We Are part of their website. And here is a reminder of the aspects of journalism that people can make a complaint about. These are similar to its predecessor, the Press Complaints Commission, and we'll consider a couple of complaints to the PCC that were upheld and which make for good, straightforward case studies when starting to learn about this stuff. I'd like you to consider these two cases and decide for yourself which aspects were rightly being complained about. So, how did you get on? The case about Chris Hoy's family was about privacy, wasn't it? It was about journalists not allowing the family privacy and, further than that, intruding into their grief. You may also have wondered whether the journalists involved were asked to stop taking pictures and refused. You could look further into the case to find out if you're interested. What about the Clare Balding case? It's about discrimination, isn't it? Clare is being discriminated against, isn't she? That is, being treated prejudicially due to her sexual orientation. You could also argue that there is harassment here because there has been unwanted behaviour in the form of the words of abuse. I wonder if any of you thought that the Clare Balding complaint shouldn't have been upheld, that it wasn't discriminatory but instead humorous and maybe even endearing. I purposefully chose this case for you to consider because that is a view some people take of it. A case like this is where we see how important context is. There might be plenty of gay women cyclists who refer to themselves as dykes on bikes. Indeed, I remember seeing a really cool bikers group parading at Toronto Pride many years ago who proudly sported their Dykes on Bikes banner. But that's different, isn't it? In those cases, the word has been reclaimed and used empoweringly by people who have the identity it was previously used against. If someone without that identity, and arguably anyone who is not the person themselves or someone very close to them, uses the term, its context remains that of prejudice and discrimination. The Advertising Standards Authority, or ASA, is the independent UK advertising regulator. Here is their mission statement. Here are the reasons why people can complain to the ASA about an ad. And here are a few examples of complaints that were upheld. These two ads were banned in the UK by the ASA on the grounds of being offensive because they objectify women in a sexist way. It's interesting, however, that the ASA say that they cannot do anything about overall body image trends in adverts, something they receive numerous complaints about, as long as the models are of a healthy weight. This TV payday loan ad featuring Kerry Katona was infamous at the time it was broadcast. It was banned due to being misleading. Look at both the wording and the design. The wording, £300 could be yours today, has echoes of a competition or a free giveaway, doesn't it? And don't you think the design echoes a casino or an amusement arcade? Can you remember from one of our other videos what these echoes are an example of? Intertextuality. Yay to you if you remembered that. So basically, the advert is presenting a loan that has to be paid back at high interest as ready cash, and in that sense, it is misleading. The first of these examples is not so relevant to you in your writing of radio ad scripts, given it's the images that are at fault, but nonetheless, they remind us of the importance of avoiding any kind of disempowering sexual objectification, which is achievable in words as well as images. The Cash Lady ad is very relevant to you because the bulk of the problem lies with the wording, backed up by the design. As an aside, do you follow social media influencers? I'm sure you do. This is a key and very developing area for the ASA because there is so much scope for dishonesty. An ad must make clear that it is an ad, and the boundaries become a bit blurred when it comes to sponsored or paid for content from social media influencers. This too relates back to what we talked about in our genre video. It's about genre mixing. When we mix genres, we must ensure that we're maintaining the standards of the genres we're mixing. It's complex territory, isn't it? If you haven't come across this term before, it simply refers to how a lot of communication, in fact the vast majority of it, uses more than just language. It maybe also uses images, sound or music, layout or design, and so on. Whilst this module is primarily about developing your written communication skills, you're already exploring the importance of multimodality in your group presentations. You're working hard to enhance your written message with colour, design, and image choices. Even when we move on to exploring how to write in various genres, multimodality will often play a role. You won't be assessed for the quality of your design in, say, a newsletter or a direct mail, but you will be assessed on your awareness of where specific types of layout or A specific type of image may be needed with your written communication. You'll always be given detailed guidance in this regard. So start as you mean to go on, and each time you draft something, think about how you want it to appear eventually, and how the language will interact with other aspects. That, in turn, might affect the language choices you make. Lots to think about.